Alright, so today I want to make another video about gun control. Now it's something that's really been in the news lately, so I want to make some more videos about it. Now I already made a video about, the shooting and whatnot, but this is something I wanted to make a video about. Now this is from the Winnipeg Police Service, and they post homemade guns seized by Winnipeg police from 2014 to 15. In 2014, there was one. 2015, there was zero. 2016, there was three. 2017, 11. 2018, 53, and 2019, or 86. So the amount of guns, homemade guns, which are illegal by definition, is going up very rapidly. Now, what is this a sign of? Well, this is a sign of criminals don't care about the laws. Criminals don't care about the laws. And another thing that it's a sign of is the demand for criminal activity and criminals wanting to be able to defend themselves is going up. Now, what is that a byproduct from? It's a byproduct from a federal and a lot of these provincial governments to an extent too that are implementing systems that allow criminal activity to thrive. And for the simple reason that, I mean, you look at the Liberal government, all their gun control measures are to, restrict and prohibit legal gun owners. They never, whenever they bring up gun control, they never bring up, okay, we need to come up with policies to go after gang members, drug dealers, like the actual people that commit the vast majority of crimes, especially, with guns as well. But they never do that. It's always, oh, how can we, create more restrictive laws? Not how can we create more restrictive laws for gang members with guns or with drug dealers with guns or people that get caught with illegal guns. It's how can we make guns even more illegal? The priorities are completely backwards. Now, you can chalk this up to one of two things. Now, it has to be one of these two things. So if you want to disagree, disagree, but disagree with one of these two things. Either they're so incredibly incompetent that they literally can't even see the elephant in the room here, that, like I say, the overwhelming majority of, crimes and, guns used in crimes are ones that are already illegal. So going after legal gun owners is going to have very little, if any, effect on crime, specifically gun crime. And we know these. Like the Winnipeg police have released their numbers. I believe, was it Halifax or Toronto, another big city, released their numbers that over 80% of guns used in crimes are guns that are illegal. So again, implementing gun control is a terribly terrible attempt to prevent crime. So that's one. Either they're so incompetent that they can't even recognize the elephant in the room, or two, they have nefarious intentions. Like what I like to point out too is that although a lot of people not on the left would disagree with me on this, I believe that it's nefarious intentions in that I don't think that they're like people like Justin Trudeau are so stupid that they can't that they don't actually know of this information. They know that their policies are not supported by the general public, at least when they be completely honest about their policies. And one of the pushbacks to their policies would be gun ownership. I mean, look at throughout history. The main reason for gun control is governments wanted to expand their powers, and not just expand it a little bit, oftentimes expand it a lot. Like the Nazis took the guns. Look at like I always point out too, like does North Korea let people own guns? And you always hear this example, oh, you're not going to be able to, you know, defeat the US Army or whatever, big army with nukes and tanks and all this stuff with your AR-15. Well, again, that like I always point out, but again, people still like to make this argument, so I have to keep explaining it. The only way that you can have a tyrannical authoritarian government and and rule over people is to have physical people going door to door. You can't control a neighborhood or an apartment building with a like an apartment building with nukes or with tanks. You need physical people to control that kind of stuff, or at the very least robots maybe in the future. And gun control, like I say, people owning AR-15s, well, that's a pretty good defense against those physical people. And like I say, if that argument was valid, well, why doesn't North Korea allow their citizenry to own guns? Why didn't the Nazis allow the citizenry to own guns? So again, like I said, that's a terrible argument. And the main point of the video being is that number one, I've shown several times, like I say, stricter gun control doesn't decrease crime. Again, I've pointed out several times, and from a most basic, in a nutshell, uh, people always compare Canada to the U.S. Like I say, Canada's murder rate peaked around 1980. The current gun control system was implemented, I believe, in like the mid to late 90s. I don't know the exact year off the top of my head. So the gun crime was trending down well before it was implemented. And not only that, the gun control, the murder rate stayed very steady for about the first 10 years after implementing our gun control. Like it barely even moved. So people who say, oh, Canada has a lower murder rate than the States because of our gun control, well, that's not true. There's literally no correlation between that. We've had a lower murder rate than the States for our entire existence. Like go back 50 years, like you can see it. So again, it's a classic correlation causation fallacy that all these idiots, arts majors and people, that you learn it in the first week of your college, but yet you still make this mistake. Now, the states, people say, oh, the states has a high murder rate because they have so many guns. Well, first of all, and they have looser gun control. First of all, the amount of guns has nothing to do with it. I mean, if anything, there's an exact opposite correlation. The amount of guns in the states has more than doubled over the last 25 years, and the murder rate has been cut in more than half. So if anything, there's a correlation between the more guns and the less crime. Um, I wouldn't argue that it's a perfect correlation, but there's definitely somewhat of a correlation. And the constitutional carry states, which are the states with uh, the loosest gun laws, do not have a higher murder rate than the U.S. average. And in fact, like I pointed out, 3 of the 4 states with the lowest murder rates, all of them lower than Canada, are constitutional carry states, and the other one being Hawaii, I believe. And Hawaii is it's pretty hard to get a gun illegally in Hawaii. Number one, because there isn't a lot of them there to begin with, and number two, there isn't a massive border to the north and south. Specifically the south. Um, so that's something to point out. But like I said, the main point of this video is that criminals are going to get the guns no matter what. We know this. The data shows this. Again, the left is whenever you debate a leftist on climate change, they expect you to have a mountain of evidence to back up your claims. Now, rightfully so, to an extent, you should have evidence to back up your claims, but they spout off on their gun control, fantasies and all this kind of stuff, and they literally have no evidence whatsoever. Not only do they not have any evidence, they don't even have the foggiest clue what the current gun laws are. Like I currently point this out too. I bet you probably 80-90% of people advocating for more gun control can't even tell you how to get a gun illegally in Canada, specifically a handgun. Like a lot of gun owners don't even know and a lot of cops don't even know. Like I was listening to an interview the other day, and they were talking about Canadian gun laws. It was a former a guy pretty high up in the RCMP, and he would talk to officers all the time about gun laws. And one of the common questions is regarding restricted firearms in the transportation laws. Now, the laws are somewhat muddy in that he would ask some officers, oh, well, when you're transporting restricted firearms, you have to go, to the range and back without any stops. Some of them would say yes, some of them would say no. And that's the problem too, is that the laws are so confusing that a lot of cops don't even know the laws. So when we're at the point where a lot of cops don't even know the laws, I think it's pretty safe to say that we've gone too far. Like I don't see how you could possibly argue against that if literally the people that we have in society that enforce these laws don't even understand them. I think it's pretty safe to say by default that we've gone too far and we need to repeal some of, if not all of it. And then, like I say, that's not to say, oh, you want criminals to get a machine gun. No, I don't want that. I don't have enough time to get into in this video, but my ideal way of doing it would be similar to a lot of the states, to where you'd have your simple background check system. You'd have to, get a license to carry a gun legally, all that kind of stuff. And Yeah, it's like I say that if the system's so confusing that cops don't even really understand it, then I don't know how you can possibly argue that more laws is going to help the system. And it's like I say too, the part of that law is how I've heard it described is that you can stop as long as it's within reasonable distance. Like you can't go in the complete opposite direction. Like if there's a Tim Hortons along the way and you want to get a coffee, then you're allowed to do it. That's at least how I've interpreted it. But I don't have a restricted license anyway, so it's not something that really concerns me. But I mean, it'd be something that I've definitely thought about doing, but it's such a hassle that I haven't quite got around to it. But um, anyway, like I say, the main point of this being is that criminals are going to do whatever it takes to get stuff illegally. Like you have these people on the left that whenever you talk about marijuana legalization, and you have the people that are against it, and they'll scoff and be like, oh, well, we're already getting it anyway. But it's the exact same thing with guns too. Like the exact same thing with guns too, and I don't understand. Um, but anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal and email. I got linked in the description. I appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, check out my BitChute channel as well.